Hello, how are you? I'm in a slightly different position today. As you may notice, I'm not actually sitting at my desk. I'm across on the other side of the room, which is actually the table where my X-ray view box is, so that you can see my desk. Because last time I tried to turn around and show you my desk in the middle of a live broadcast. It ended badly. I ended up making a mess of things. So, I'm just going to wait just a second, just to give a chance for a few people to come on, and then we'll get into it. I'm trying things a little bit differently this time in that this broadcast is actually only available inside the Healthy Lifestyle Choices group, which I'm not sure, may mean that less people come on. I'm not sure, because I thought that I could host it in here and then still share it to my other pages, etc. But it would appear that that's not the case. So we might have a slightly smaller group tonight, which is totally okay. I'm pretty dedicated to wanting to make sure that you guys who are in my Healthy Lifestyle Choices group and are the ones who sort of follow and interact and participate in my stuff more than anything, are the ones who get to see these things. So I think that's really important. So as I said, hopefully you guys come on board, and then obviously if you don't see this live, then you'll be able to see this on the recording, which is totally fine. And once again, I'll make sure that the full video is here in the Healthy Lifestyle Choices group, as well as on my Dr. Brett Hill YouTube page. And also there'll be some highlight videos, a 30-second and a 60-second highlight video that I'll make, as well as other quotes and things, so that you guys don't miss a thing. All right? And so I'm going to get straight into it and start. Once again, tonight is all about workplace ergonomics. I'm going to show you a little bit of stuff about how I set up my desk. We're going to talk about how you can set up your car. We're going to talk about if you're working from home, if you're on the road, all those sort of things, and try and make sure I just cover everything that you need to know. And the first thing I think you need to know is that when it comes to your spine, when it comes to your nervous system, prevention is definitely better than the cure, okay? So the time to start thinking about this sort of stuff is definitely before you get some sort of a workplace injury, and ideally, it's actually before you start work. So those of you who are parents, I strongly encourage you to share this with your family and with your kids, and to incorporate all of the things that I'm going to talk about with your family and with your kids, right? Because that gives you an opportunity to really prevent a lot of future problems, which is really the best way to go. And so particularly when I talk about later some of the preventative measures in terms of how to set up your bed and how to sleep, lifting technique, making sure you're not carrying too heavy loads, doing good quality exercise, looking after your diet, doing postural stretches, getting your spine and nervous system checked by a chiropractor. These are all things that I think you want to be really thinking of as a parent, once again, well before you get to the injury stage. So that would be great. And because it's really important, the health of your spine and your nervous system is really important for a whole raft of reasons, right? And when it comes to the health of your spine and your nervous system, really movement is crucially important, right? Keeping your spine moving is one of the most important things, and particularly not just global movement, but segmental movement. Making sure each of those individual segments is moving really well is really important for not only the health of your spine in terms of those individual joints and the biomechanics, but also in terms of your nervous system. And that is for a whole number of ways. We know that your spine protects your nervous system, and that's a really crucial role that it plays. But it's also important for stimulating your nervous system. So we know that whenever your spine moves, it sends messages back to your brain. It's called proprioception. It's about where your body is in space, and about 80% of that comes from your spine. Okay, and so when those messages go back to your brain, they help to release dopamine and serotonin in your brain, which is switching off the stress response in your body. Now we know that the stress response in your body is linked to a whole raft of chronic diseases and conditions and inflammation and a whole raft of different things, right? So it's crucially important that your body is capable of and is able to de-stress. And so that's why looking after your spine, making sure your spine can move well is really important, right? And a big part of that, especially in our modern world where we just sit far too much, whether that's at home, whether that's at work, on the couch, in the car, all those things we're doing where we're sitting, we're sedentary, the head tends to come forward, we lose our posture, we tend to get stuck in flexion, and we cause a lot of stress on our spine and our nervous system, right? So looking after our posture and maintaining good posture through all of the activities that we do, once again, whether that's sitting at your workstation, whether that's at school, whether that's in your car, whether that's while you're exercising, while you're moving around at work, all of these are super important, okay? Hello, Summer, how are you? Thanks for jumping on board. So just talking about posture and the importance of posture, and obviously, like I said, in terms of your spine, in terms of your biomechanics, I mean, it's as simple as biomechanically, just think of a car. I say to people, look, if your car's out of alignment, it's going to wear and tear more than it should. It's not going to perform as well as it should. It's going to break down more than it should, right? And your spine is exactly the same, except, once again, your spine also encompasses your nervous system and has a big impact in that regard as well, okay? So, once again, when it comes to thinking about workplace ergonomics, you need to actually start thinking about it before you get to work, right? Because what you do before you get there is actually going to play just as big a role as what you do once you get there, all right? So you need to start thinking about what you're doing from a movement perspective, okay? Your body just needs movement. We are, once again, so sedentary in our modern lifestyles, and people are saying things like, like sitting is the new smoking is one that you hear a lot nowadays, that sitting may in fact be more dangerous for your body than smoking, which is pretty crazy when you think about it, given all the health challenges we know about smoking, right? And so we need to move, we need to prepare ourselves, if we are going to be so sedentary during the day at work, as many people are, I know some of you aren't, some of you are up and about at work, some of you are climbing and lopping trees, some of you are on your feet all day waiting tables, some of you are just up and about the whole time, and that's cool. And people often say, I've got this really active job, so it's really stressful, that must be causing problems with my spine. And often what I say to them is actually, you're probably the lucky ones, right? The people who are just sitting still doing nothing are often the ones with the bigger spinal problems. In fact, whenever they do studies on this, what invariably comes back as the worst is truck drivers, right? They sit in the one spot for long periods of time without moving, with the added vibration of those trucks along the highway, and that tends to be the worst in terms of the impact and the insult and the injury to the spine, right? So if you're up and about and you're moving, that's good, but if you're not, then you need to make sure you're doing lots of movement when you're not at work to help counteract that, right? Because there's not many hours left in the day. The research says that your average office worker sits for about 16 hours a day, right? They then sleep for something like 6 hours 45 minutes, okay, which leaves about an hour and a quarter where they're actually moving, right? Not exercising, just literally moving at all. And so you need to make sure that hour and a quarter you've got, you're getting the best out of it. You need to get your whole body moving. If you can be incorporating a bit of core work and a bit of strength work as well as some cardio work into that movement, then that's going to be even better in terms of guarding and protecting your spine and your nervous system as well. Like I said, thinking about these things before you get to work is just as important as thinking about what you do when you do get to work. In the same way, eating a healthy diet is going to help look after your spine and your nervous system. Making sure that you're properly hydrated, making sure you're getting good nutrition for your bones, and that's not just calcium, that's magnesium, that's vitamin D, that's, once again, resistance exercise. These are all things important for your bones. Making sure you're getting good nutrition for your muscles and your joints and your ligaments and your cartilage. And once again, that's not just then about protein for your muscles, right? It's about getting the right collagen and cartilage and all those other generally animal-based products that are going to be really important for looking after your musculoskeletal system, okay? And as well as that, not having a really highly processed inflammatory diet, which is then going to cause detrimental effects as well in terms of the inflammation that creates to your joints and your spine, the risk that puts you in terms of insults and injuries as well. So diet's really important, hydration's really important. The other one that's worth mentioning here is actually smoking, because smoking really dehydrates, particularly the discs in your spine. which once again puts you at a much higher risk when you're at work. And once again, this doesn't matter whether you're sitting sedentary at work, whether you're on the feet the whole time, whether you're working from home. I really should have got myself a glass of water, I'm going to feel it here. Whether you're working from home, whether you're in the car, whatever you're doing, making sure you're really well hydrated is going to be really important. And then the thing people often don't think about is things like making sure you're getting enough rest and making sure you've got a good bed, right? A good, supportive, generally firmer than you think you should bed, combined with a really good pillow, often a contour pillow that helps keep your head in a nice neutral position. Once you're using one pillow that does tend to keep your head in a nice neutral position rather than multiple pillows which are going to crane it one way or the other, is important in terms of maintaining your spine and your nervous system. Once again, maintaining that good posture so you're in a good, strong, stable position before you even get to work, and making sure you're getting enough rest so that you can recover in terms of your spine, your nervous system, your musculoskeletal system between shifts at work so that you're ready to go again as well, okay? So those are some really important things I just wanted to sort of cover up front, because as I said, prevention is better than the cure, and preparation is what's going to help you get through the day at work. If you do those things right before you get to work, then that's going to be a really good way to go. All right, so let's talk about the home workstation or the work workstation. So if you are using a computer, then this is going to be, now I'm just going to put this down, it's a bit noisy, bear with me. All right, so I'm just going to let that go down. So that is a Mobi workstation. And I'm going to talk about that in a sec when I start talking about stand-up desks. Hopefully it goes down okay this time without collapsing and making a mess out of my room like I did last time I tried to do this on a Facebook Live. The reason I'm putting it down is I just want to show you how you should be thinking about setting up your desk. All right. Hopefully as I move away from the laptop here, you can still hear me okay, so I can sort of demonstrate this pretty well. What you'll notice I've got set up here is the setup that I recommend a lot for people for their workstation. Now, in this case, this is for someone using a laptop, because I use a laptop a lot, because I use it in here, I use it out of my adjusting area, I do a lot of work on the road. Obviously pre-COVID I was travelling and speaking and doing all that sort of stuff a lot as well. So the idea of this workstation, and this can be the same whether you're using a laptop or whether you're using a PC, is that you want to get your monitor up at eye height. Okay, so let's start from the ground up. First thing you want is you want your feet to be on the ground. Okay, you want your knees to be at 90 degrees. You want your hips to be at 90 degrees. Right, that's keeping everything nice and straight and square. Let me know, guys, if you can hear me okay, because I have moved away from the mic. So I just want to make sure you can still hear me okay. But the idea being then, once you've got into this position, and if you need to add in a footrest or something of that nature so that your feet are still on the ground, or at least on the footrest, then that's cool as well, okay? Because what you then want to do is you want to get your chair to the height where your elbows can be at 90 degrees and your wrists can rest comfortably on the desk. So when you're using the keypad, when you're using the mouse, whatever you're doing, you're not having to hike your shoulders right up and hold that tension there all day, every day. You're not having to slump forward to get to the keypad. You're able to just sit upright in a nice neutral position like that. And then when you're sitting upright like that, with your head back above your shoulders, then the middle of your monitor should be level with your eyes, okay? And that's going to mean that as you get further and further into the day, you're going to keep wanting to look at the middle of your monitor. If your monitor's down here, then as the day goes on, you're going to tend to start coming down to meet it, right? And you're going to end up hunched right over, particularly if you're typing at a keyboard, right? Or if you're using an iPad, they're kind of the worst, the tablets, right? Because then it's like flat on the counter here, and you're ending up down here looking at it, working on it. So you really want to get your screen up to eye height so that you can stay nice and upright, all right? And that's the way to set up your desk. So feet on the floor, knees at 90 degrees, hips at 90 degrees, elbows at 90 degrees with your hands resting comfortably, head back over your shoulders and monitor level with your eyes, right? And everything, and you want to have your setup right in front of you, okay? You don't want to be having to look right across to the side to use your keyboard or to check your monitors. I know some people work with multiple monitors, in which case you sort of try and keep them as much straight in front of you as is possible, but also acknowledging that a little bit of movement each way and it should be each way, right? Try and set up so that you move a little bit to the left and a little bit to the right, rather than always rotating in the one direction. We're going to sort of get that repetitive strain going on as well. So that's how to set up your desk, all right? And then we can start talking about standing desks. So standing desks have become very popular, and with good reason, right? Because they allow you to maintain a more upright posture. Probably more importantly, they allow you to keep moving. All right, so when you're in a standing desk, and I posted a little video on this inside my Healthy Lifestyle Choices group just the other day. It was a really cool little video from Kelly Starrett, who's awesome. And he was just sharing a couple of ways where you can keep moving when you're using a stand-up desk. So you might put your foot up onto a stool and then put your other foot up onto the stool. You might lean back into a chair for a little bit. You might sit on a bouncy ball, a gym ball for a little bit and add a bit of movement, right? So you might sit down for a while, then stand up for a while, but you can just sort of play around with it. You can add a bit of variety into your day, which really helps to break it up, right? Because you shouldn't be staying in any one position for more than about 20 minutes. So the more, and literally, even if all you do is you stand up, you walk around your chair, and you sit back down again, then that's going to help take off some of that postural load, right? Because ligaments deform over time, and so the longer the ligaments are stuck in that position for, then the more they're going to deform and the more change that's going to make to your posture. The more you can break that up, like I said, every 20 minutes, just get up and move, then the more difference it's going to make, right? So I'm a big fan of the stand-up desks. Like I said, this is the Movi workstation. They were great supporters of us on the Wellness Couch, sponsors us a couple of times, sent us one of these desks, and I love it. Been sort of travelling around to a few different offices with me now, but it gets used a lot. And so this is great because it's set up and I will set up, sorry I was having trouble, technophobe that I am, making it work. But the great thing about this is you can use it as a seated and as a standing desk. It is a little bit noisy to get between one and the other, but it's worth it for what it does, right? It's really cool. And it allows you to have that option of sometimes sitting, sometimes standing, which I find really useful. So once again, when it comes to the stand-up desk, the principle is the same. One of the great things about this one is you can set it to how high you want it to go, so that once again, you can maintain the same general rules, right? This time, obviously, you're staying straight from your hips, but you're still keeping your elbows at 90 degrees and your hands just resting nice and neatly there. The monitor is still going to be the middle of the monitor. It doesn't look it from the angle you're on because you're down a bit lower. But the monitor is actually going to be level with my eyes. And so that allows me to maintain that same good posture. Once again, I can put the weight on one foot, I can put the weight on the other foot, I can move around a little bit, I can bring my knees up, I can just add some movement and add some variety into that whilst I'm working away. Especially if you're sort of doing something like this where you're talking, it's nice to be able to move a little bit and have a little bit of interaction, right? So that's the stand-up desk. Obviously, when you're using a stand-up desk, or if you are on your feet all the time at work, or you're moving around a lot, then having good shoes is really important as well. Now, I know for some of you, having dress shoes or having high-heeled shoes, having that heel in there is going to be a necessity at times for your work, but for most people it's not a necessity all the time for your work. So I'd really encourage you to think about whether you need to wear those same shoes for the entire day, or whether you can perhaps mix it up a little bit, add in some variety in terms of the shoes that you wear, some flatter shoes that don't have that big heel lift, which actually changes your whole posture, right? Causes your calves to tighten up, causes your glutes to fire, creates an increased lumbar lordosis, so an increased curvature in your lower back, which then tends to make you round more in your upper back, right? So having that lift under your heels, even if it's just a running shoe that has a centimetre or more lift under it, right up to a high heel, which can have several inches of lift under it, it's going to have a big impact on your posture and put pressure on the whole rest of your spine. So many of you will know that I wear my Vivo barefoot shoes predominantly. I do have a few different pairs now in terms of some field grounds that I've played around with and stuff like that, but I do really like the Vivos. You can get them in all different styles, whatever your work is. In terms of the more dressy looking shoes, I did get a pair of the field grounds for Tom for his school. and they had a nice pair of sort of black leather ones that just looked like any other school shoes, which were great, and could easily be worn as sort of work shoes as well if you need to wear black shoes at work. But getting good shoes, and once again, acknowledging, and I will do another video at some stage on sort of barefoot stuff, because I think that's really important, but acknowledging that barefoot shoes are not for everybody, right? You need to do a certain amount of work to sort of condition yourself to be ready for barefoot shoes, and some people with arthritic conditions, with degeneration, with chronic diseases, peripheral neuropathies, those sort of things, may not be suited to wearing barefoot shoes. So I'm not saying they're for everybody, but saying that's an option that I think is good for a lot of people, especially if you're on your feet, especially if you're trying to get up and standing more during your work day, then I think that's a really good way to go. Okay. Another thing that's often overlooked is how much stuff we carry around with us during the day. All right. Once again, this is more so probably for workers who are on the go and are moving around, right? And this isn't just this is not just people who are on the road in terms of their work. Like I know when I used to work at Bunnings, so I worked for about 7 years at Bunnings as I was going through sort of school and uni, and you have that apron, right, that you wear. And I know that towards the end of my days at Bunnings, I'd kind of just accumulated stuff that I carried in that apron. It's like I had one of everything, right? You've got like the tape measure, the Stanley knife, the ruler, I don't even know, the texter, the notepad, I just kept accumulating stuff that I was carrying around in this apron. It actually got to the stage where it's quite heavy and way heavier than it needed to be, right? I know if there's a lot of people, they'll have their backpack that they wear to work, or they'll have their handbag they take with them. And what I would say to you is just do a bit of an assessment of it. Pull it out, pull everything out, and ask yourself, do I need to actually carry this around the whole time? Or could I just A, bin it, or B, leave it where I use it, or maybe even get a couple of them, so I can put one here, one there, and one there where I use it, so I don't have to carry it around with me the whole time, right? Because, once again, that's just going to put extra load on your body, extra stress on your body that doesn't need to be there. And that's not to say that load or stress are bad things, but what we're talking about here is what we call repetitive micro-trauma, right? This is the RSI style injuries, where when you're doing the same thing over and over and over again, then that's where it's much more likely to become a problem. So plantar fasciitis is an interesting one. And there's interesting stuff around that with plantar fasciitis. A lot of the time it is the fact that we're so flat-footed that then stretches out the plantar fascia and causes a lot of problems there. And so there are a lot of challenges with that in terms of going to sort of a more barefoot style. And sometimes if you can strengthen up your feet, regain some of the natural strength and the arch, put some of the support back onto those muscular elements, you can take pressure off of the plantar fascia, and that can actually help as well. Not for everybody, but for some people as well. So it is something that if you're interested, you could chat to a really good podiatrist. And it has to be a good podiatrist who could potentially be able to help you out with that. But having said that, there are some people with really acute plantar fasciitis for whom barefoot stuff would just be a no-go as well. So individual cases, right? The other one's the phone. The phone tends to be less of a problem now than what it used to be. The classic old kind of 80s office phone where you got it under your shoulder and you're typing away. We tend to be a lot smarter about that nowadays. However, you do still see a lot of terrible phone postures where people are on their phone and they're hunched over, or they're doing their call and trying to type and doing whatever it is that they're doing, right? And so just being really mindful of that. If you are using your phone a lot at work, then just using your earbuds basically. I'm not a big fan of the wireless ones. I just don't like having that sort of stuff that close to my brain. I'm more of a fan of the old-fashioned wired-in pair for exactly that reason. I can keep the phone slightly further away from me, but it's still a hard wire rather than a wireless device. Once again, I don't know that there's huge amounts of research specifically on those wireless devices. I know they are supposed to be lower in Wi-Fi than other devices, but for me, I don't find it that big a deal having the cord to my phone. But maybe if you're on the go and you can't, you don't want to carry the phone with you the whole time you're moving, then the wireless might work better for you as well, right? So, someone says, what's the difference between wireless and wired? Yeah, I think essentially it's just the Wi-Fi. I was going to say the Wi-Fi, not the Wi-Fi. What am I trying to say? The EMFs is that you're potentially getting more EMF closer to your brain with a wireless pair versus a wired pair. So that's where I prefer to go to wired. Once again, even though I don't know that there's necessarily a lot of specific data on that yet, for me it's more just a risk mitigation thing. I'd rather not take the risk. I'd rather just use the wires. So that's the way I do it. So that's hand-free phones, right? The next one is setting up your car, right? So for a lot of people, they spend a lot of their work time in the car, or depending on where you are in Australia, you might spend a lot of time commuting. So I spend more time commuting now since I've started in my new office. It's probably about 25 minutes each way, which is a lot for Adelaide, right? I know for where I came from, I was in Potts Point in Sydney. I could barely get to the CBD in 25 minutes, let alone get anywhere else, right? So, but in your car is really important. And it's the same general principle in terms of your car, right? So you want to try and keep your backrest reasonably vertical, right? You don't want to have your backrest back like this, so that then your head, relative to your upper body, is bending forward a lot in order to be able to see what's going on in the world around you. Like you see some of these young guys, particularly guys, and they got the seat way back like this, and they're like hunched forward. And that might look cool when you're 20, but it doesn't look cool when you're 70 and you're like a hunchback, right? So, so keeping your seat nice and upright is definitely the way to go in your car. And for some of the taller people, it actually creates a problem because you're kind of having to look under the windscreen to see what's going on, depending on the size of your car. So you might need to get a more appropriate car size for your body size, if that's the case. But keeping that seat nice and upright allows your head to stay back further relative to your body. The next problem people encounter nowadays is that many of the car seats have really shitty headrests, right? It's like they've now designed the car seat to suit people with bad posture, because bad posture is so common. And so the headrest actually sits forward relative to the car seat and kind of forces people into that position. Yeah, there you go. Someone just said, my new car, I've got the headrest is pointed more forwards and I can't seem to change it, and it's causing problems with my neck. That is exactly what I'm talking about, Summer. Many cars seem to be built that way nowadays. As I said, I think we've gotten to the ridiculous situation where poor posture is so common that they've started building the cars to suit the people rather than helping the people suit the cars. And it's tricky, right? So what one way around that is just to reverse the headrest. So it actually faces and leans slightly the other way, and that allows you to sit slightly more upright. The challenge, what you've got to be careful of, is that can actually void your car's warranty or void your insurance if you get into a crash. So you need to check in on that and make sure that it's okay for you to do that without it adversely affecting your insurance, your injury insurance. Because I have had people say they've been told that their work won't let them turn it around because it's an insurance risk. So then you just need to see if you can find like some sort of a off-the-market product headrest that's going to sit in a more neutral position, which is really hard to find as well. And in the extreme case, I have had people who've actually ended up just getting a different car, like because the seats are just so poorly designed. Which is kind of shitty, right? Especially if you just bought a new car somewhere. That's the last thing you want to hear. But there's not a lot of workarounds to that, unfortunately. I mean, the other thing that you can potentially consider, I think, would be trying to get some sort of a backrest that actually brings the seat forward relative to the headrest, and so allows you to sort of stay in a slightly more neutral position as well. And that would be the other way to sort of try and go around it. So try and find some sort of thickish backrest for your car seat that brings your body forward. It means your head isn't forced quite so far forward, because that is really annoying. Right? Anyway, aside from that, get your seat in as upright position as you can. Hopefully your head's able to come back into a nice above your shoulders position. Sit up nice and straight, bring your head back, tuck your chin in, sit in a really good posture, And then when you're in your ideal posture that you want to try and stay in, adjust all of your mirrors, all right? I really need that glass of water. Adjust all of your mirrors so that what that means is as you're driving along, as you start to fatigue, as you start to slump, every time you go to look in the mirror, you're going to have to actually sit back into a good posture in order to be able to see properly out your mirror. And it's a great little regular reminder just to get you back into a good posture. So that's the trick. Change all of your mirrors when you're in your best posture that you want to stay in, and it's like this perfect little regular reminder to help you get back into good posture every time you need to look in the mirror, which is really cool. So especially for people who spend lots of time in the car, that's a really cool tip, and I've had a lot of people tell me that that one works really well. All right, if you are doing a lot of lifting at work, then obviously your lifting technique is really important. I'm not going to spend heaps of time on this because I reckon all of you have by now heard how to do proper lifting technique. But I will go through it anyway because I don't want to leave you absent of knowledge, all right? And so, what have we got here? So essentially, the key is, I'll use my 33, Wisdom of 33 book. Right, the key is what you don't want to be doing when you're lifting stuff is, I can do it, God, it's hard, is just rounding, right? It's just rounding forward with your back and picking stuff up. Right? What you do want to do is have spent so much time in the gym practicing good lifting technique that actually trying to demonstrate bad lifting technique is kind of difficult, right? So what you want to be doing when you're lifting is bend. I'm going to come back a bit further. Is bending your knees, right? Don't keep your knees straight and round with your back. Right? Bend your knees so that you can keep your back straight. Right? Stick your bum out so that your back stays nice and straight. Don't tuck your bum and round your back. Right, back nice and straight, bend your knees, keep your back straight the whole way. Right, so there should always be a straight line between your hips and your ears, and your shoulders should sit straight between them in a line. Right, so imagine it's a hinge, hinging at your waist, bending your knees, not just using your lower back. You know, your leg muscles are your strong ones. They're the ones that are going to give you all the lift. So make sure you're really using your legs more than you're using your back. Okay. Okay, cool. Yes, someone says it's a used car, so I'm not afraid of the warranty. Yeah, once again, it's not so much the warranty you need to worry about, Summer, as it is your motor vehicle insurance, right? So if you are covered for your own personal injury, but you're not using the seat as the manufacturer has suggested you should, then that can be a trouble. So depending on what insurance you have, you might just want to check with your insurer to see whether they say it's okay. Anyway. All right, so that's lifting technique. The one thing I do want to say about lifting technique is for a while there, sort of in the 90s and the early 2000s, particularly in the 90s, back braces were the thing, right? Everywhere you went, you'd see people with these back braces hanging over their shoulders, and whenever they wanted to lift, they'd be doing them up and undoing them. Sorry. And in fact, initially, when people started using them, they would just leave them done up the whole time. And it turns out that's about the worst thing you can do, right? Because what happens is if you leave the back brace done up the whole time, then the back brace is doing all the work. You're not actually using your muscles, you're not actually using your ligaments properly when you're doing the work, and they actually weaken, they fade away. And so what was starting to happen is that people were wearing their back braces at work, they'd go home, they'd do something on the weekend, bang, they'd injure themselves, right? Because they didn't have the conditioning, they didn't have the strength. They had the strength in their legs to do the lift because they've been doing it with the back brace, but they didn't have the strength in the core to protect themselves. My water's down the other end in the kitchen. I've got my glass. I did have some before I started. I've got my glass here, but it's unfortunately one little sip. That's it. One little drop. I will get some. I'm almost done, so I'm gonna power through. So be careful with back braces. Like honestly, my recommendation is to use them as little as you can. None is best. But if you're doing some really heavy lifting and you feel like you need that back brace as support, then do it up whilst you're doing the really heavy lifting. As soon as you're done, take it off, or at least undo it, so that then you're getting back to using your muscles and your ligaments as they're designed to. So you're building up that proper strength and conditioning to protect you, not only when you're at work, but like I said, when you're at home, when you're doing other stuff, and you don't have that back brace with you too. So Be careful of back braces and their ability to weaken your back. Do your postural exercises. You know, if you know that your work tends to put you into a bad posture, I'll tell you what, because I'm not at my usual desk setup, I have got the screen lower than it should be now, and what I've noticed is I'm starting to hunch in towards it. So it's a classic example of what I was talking about. So I'll try and keep correcting myself as we go along. Make sure you do your postural stretches, right? So inside the Healthy Lifestyle Choices group here, there's a couple of videos I've done of that. The first one I think was labelled something like the #1 exercise I recommend in practice. And it's all about how to do a postural stretch on the long foam roller that's going to help open up your chest, going to bring your head back and undo that rounded posture that many of us will develop spending too much time seated at the desk, right? So check that video out. Make sure you do those on a regular basis, especially if you know that, that at your work or at home or in the car, you're spending a lot of time seated. Whether you feel like you're hunched forward or not, you probably need it, is my experience. Summer says, if you don't have a sit-stand desk and are stuck at your desk for hours except for breaks and not able to get up much, yeah, it's a challenge, Summer. As I said, if all you do is stand up, go around your desk, go around your chair and sit back down, again, it'll take you like 5 seconds. It's not going to affect your productivity. If your work's giving you grief about that, then tell them to talk to me. And I'll tell them that it's actually probably going to save them money in the long run. You're going to be less likely to be injured, less likely to be on work cover, more likely to be more productive because it's going to stimulate your brain and help you perform better. So just do those little movements. I always say to people, ironic, drink lots of water because A, it's good for you, it helps hydrate your spine, helps look after your body, but also if you drink enough water, you're going to have to get up and piss at some stage, and that's actually really good because then you get to move, right? So do lots of toilet breaks. You can't get in trouble for going to the toilet. So I hope not. I hope your boss isn't going to give you in trouble for going to the toilet. So drink lots of water. That helps you get up and move around as well. But literally just find an excuse, step up, go around your chair, get back down again. It only needs to be 5 seconds, but try and do it every 20 minutes just to break up that cycle a little bit. So postural stretches we've spoken about. The final one is get your spine and nervous system checked by a chiropractor. As I said, what's common nowadays is bad posture. What's common is poorly functioning spines and nervous systems as a result of our modern lifestyle stresses. Whilst it's common, it's not normal. We shouldn't be having to design our cars around it because so many people have bad posture. We should be doing something about people's bad posture and the bad functioning of their spine and their nervous system. One of the best things you can do is get people to get checked out by a chiropractor. Obviously, if you're in the area of us in St Agnes, Healthy Choices Chiropractic, we'd love to help you out. But if you're not in this area, then by all means send me a message. I'll be happy to find you someone awesome close to home because I love doing that. And I have people and friends and know great chiropractors all around the country. And nowadays, with the beauty of Facebook and Facebook communities, they can help recommend chiropractors all around the world. And we do that on a really regular basis. So making sure your spine and your nervous system are functioning well, even if you feel like they're functioning okay, remember that only 10% of your nervous system is pain. You can have a lot of dysfunction going on and not be feeling it yet. So the best time to get checked is now, not when it starts to hurt. That's why we recommend everyone get their kids checked. Get checked as soon as possible. Do it as a preventative rather than trying to patch it up together later. And that makes a really big difference. So someone says, I'm starting a new job tomorrow. The last place will tell me off and time my toilet breaks and tell me if I dare and stand up to take a 10 seconds to stretch. They were arseholes. I agree, some of they were arseholes. That's a great reason to find a new job, I reckon. And to be honest, if they think like that, they're idiots and they're doing themselves a disservice because that is actually leading to less healthy, less productive team members who are more likely to get injured, who are more likely to miss days at work, who are more likely to miss productivity at work, and are more likely to end up on work cover. Like, as a boss, if that's your thinking, then you're stuck in the 80s, man, and you need an update because you're not only hurting your team members, you're hurting yourself. That's just not very bright. So once you get in at the new place, Summer, and everyone likes you and friendly, then by all means just send this video to the HR department and go, hey, I reckon you guys would like to check this out. This might be something worth having a watch of, and maybe even getting everyone to have a watch of, because I think that would be really good. And someone says, my awesome chiro is recommended by Damo, which is my good mate Damien Christoph, who used to do the Wellness Guys podcast show with me. And he is a legend, and a friend of his is a friend of mine. So great to hear that he looked after you, Summer. So that's it. That's my 13 for tonight. I will put them into the Healthy Lifestyle Choices group, my note of my 13 steps, in a second, so that they're there for you to review. In the meantime, any other questions, just put them below this video. More than happy to help you out in any way that I can. Thanks for joining me tonight. Thanks if you're listening to it on the replay. And as I said, I'll make sure that I get some the video onto the YouTube channel and the snippets here for you to check out as well. And I can tell you that I will be doing another live next month, and it's going to be all about self-care. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you guys have obviously already joined the Healthy Lifestyle Choices group. If you're listening to this somewhere else, on my YouTube channel or elsewhere, make sure you join my Healthy Lifestyle Choices group on Facebook so that you can hear all of these future videos, because I'd love to share more great content with you. In the meantime, have a great night. Someone says, thank you so much for this live. It has definitely helped me. That's what I love to hear. Have a great night, and I'll definitely speak to you soon. See ya.